Guys, my name is Jitin. I'll be your facilitator for this particular course or for this particular webinar, I should say. That is AZ-500, Microsoft Azure Security Architect Technologies. First of all, warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for giving your precious time. Today we will talk about how exactly we are proceeding with this training and what are the different topics that we will be covering in this particular training and how the actual training is going to be. So I'll give you a quick demonstration that how actual training is going to be, how we will be discussing things technically. At the end of the session, I will give you some time to ask your questions. So probably once we'll be discussing technical things, you will come across some technical queries. Recommend you all to maybe make a note of your queries at the end of the session. I will be giving you good amount of time, ample amount of time, so that you can ask your technical queries, if in case you have any, right? So as I mentioned, my name is Jitin Singh. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I have more than 10 years of technical experience, trained in different Azure technologies, trained in Azure administration, architect designing, security, trained in DevOps, with some on-premise technologies as well, like Windows Server Active Directory, Intune, and the networking as well, right? So trained in multiple technologies. Now, this one we are discussing regarding the AZ-500, Microsoft Azure Security Architect Technologies. So in this particular course, what exactly we are going to discuss? In this particular course, we have got 4 modules. It's an official curriculum of Microsoft that I'm sharing. So in total, we have got 4 modules that we will be covering in this particular course. Yeah, I think everyone is muted, Sijo. Let me check again. Just give me a moment. Sijo, I believe everyone is muted. I don't find anyone who is not muted. Right? Okay. So what are we going to cover in this particular training? So in this particular training, as I mentioned, we have got 4 modules. Module number 1 talks about manage identity and access. It talks about how can we configure the Azure Active Directory, how can we configure PIM, Privileged Identity Management, configure Azure AD for Azure workload subscriptions, configure security for an Azure subscription, right? Anyone who is new to cloud, probably these terms would be new. But don't worry, when we will be starting this course, we will be taking it from a very, very scratch level. We will take it from a very, very base level so that easily you would be able to pick up the concepts and easily you will become familiar with these concepts. Module 2 will talk about implementing platform security, platform protection and platform security. So in this, we talk about, we can understand the cloud security. How can we build a network in cloud? How can we secure that network? How can we implement host security? How can we implement platform security enhancements? How can we implement subscription security? We'll talk about all these things. Then in module number 3, we will talk about securing data in applications. How can we configure security policies to manage data? How can we configure security for data infrastructure? Right? Data is very crucial for any organization. So if in case data is not secure, data should be secure at rest. Data should be secure in transit at both places. So whenever we would like to secure data, we would like to use some sort of an encryption. We can use Microsoft encryption or we can use our own keys for the encryption. So how to secure the data at rest? How to secure the data in transit? How to secure the data using Microsoft keys? How to secure the data using our own keys? Where we will be storing those keys? How we will be accessing those keys with the help of identities? So we'll try to understand all about this, right? So configure security policies to manage data, configure security for data infra, configure encryption for data at rest, understand application security, implementing security for application lifecycle, secure applications, configure and manage Azure Key Vault. Azure Key Vault is a service with the help of which we can do secret management, key management, and certificate management, where we can store the keys, we can store the certificates, we can store the secrets. When I say certificates means TLS and SSL certificates, right? And keys and certificates we would be using basically for the encryption part. Then module 4 talks about implementing and managing security operations, configure security services, security policies by using Azure Security Center. In this, we are also covering Microsoft Defender. Managing security alerts, respond to and remediate security issues. How can we respond? How can we create alerts? And how can we respond to it? So we'll be talking about all those things, right? We'll be talking about all those things. What role security engineer would be able to perform? The Azure security engineer implements security controls, maintains a security posture, identifies and remediates vulnerabilities, right? Identify and remediates vulnerabilities by using a variety of security tools. So this is the role that security engineer would be performing. He is responsible for including protection data and applications. He is responsible for including protecting data and the applications as well. Protecting the networks, managing identity and access, implementing threat protection, responding to security incident escalations. So this is what he's responsible for. Azure security engineer often serves as part of a larger team dedicated to cloud-based management. Successful security engineers start this role with experience in operating systems, virtualization, cloud infra, storage structures, and networking. Right? This is the role security engineer is supposed to follow. Now, before I go into all these slides, now let me take you to actually how the training is going to be. Let me give you a glimpse how actually we will be discussing things during the training sessions, right?
Jitin, there is a lot of background noise from your side.
There's a background noise from my side. Just allow me a moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Just give me a moment. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So apologies for the inconvenience. Now we are using MS Paint. Actually, for some reason, my tool, the background cancellation noise tool, is not working for some reason. I was trying to fix it, but fortunately, unfortunately, did not get much time to fix the same. So apologies for the inconvenience caused. Now, today I'll just give you a glimpse. So how actual training is going to be. So today we'll just talk about the architecture of Azure. So when we say that we will be talking about Azure, whenever we have any technology, we have some architecture on the technology. We refer that as Azure architecture. So in this architecture, we have two types of architecture here. One is what we call as physical architecture, and one is what we call as logical architecture. These are the two types of architectures. So these are the two types of architecture we have in Azure, physical architecture and logical architecture. Right? So first we will talk about the physical architecture, and then we will talk about the logical architecture, right? In physical architecture, so first of all, what is Azure? If I say what is Azure? Azure is nothing but a public cloud. Traditionally, what we were doing, we used to have our on-premise data centers, right? We used to have our on-premise data centers. When we say we used to have our on-premise data centers means we were deploying the resources in our own data center. So when I say resources means I'm referring to virtual machines. I'm referring to virtual networks. I'm referring to databases. I'm referring to firewall, etc., etc., etc. There is a very long list. So we used to have our own data centers inside our own organization, right? And we were deploying all these resources where we will have our application server, database server, we will have our firewalls, we will have our networks, machines, so and so, right? But there is always a physical limitation of a data center. The physical limitation is, let's say I have my data center in Bangalore, right? I would be able to support maybe Indian baselines. If my application is growing, if my application is becoming hit, and now I have a lot of users in, I'll give you time. So Sheikh, allow me some time. I'll give you time for the question and the answer. So just allow me some time. Right? So just give me a couple of minutes. I'll give you some time to have your questions and answers. So now let's say if my application is becoming a hit, and now if I would like to deploy, or I have a lot of users in Canada. So if users from Canada will try to access my application in India, users from Canada will try to access the application in India, there will be a lot of latency, there will be a lot of performance issues. The benefit of the cloud is, the benefit of the public cloud is, public cloud means it is open to all the public, it is open to everyone. Any organization, any individual person, any individual client, whatever, they can go and they can deploy their resources in Azure. They can create their network in Azure. They can create their machines in Azure. They can create their databases in Azure. So all of us, maybe whether we are a single entity, whether we are a mid-sized organization, whether we are a large enterprise, we can deploy the resources in Azure. Right? So what the Azure has built, basically Azure has built a lot of data centers across the globe. Azure has built a lot of data centers. Right? Azure has built a lot of data centers across the globe. We will be, they have built a lot of data centers, right? And they have got data centers across the globe. They have got data centers across the globe. Now, there is something we call as region. Now, region is nothing but group of data centers. As you were discussing, Microsoft has deployed data centers across the globe. So group of data centers we called as one region. In one region, region is nothing but a physical place where the data centers are built. So in one region, minimum we will have 2 data centers and maximum we may have multiple data centers. So Azure has got 60 plus regions across the globe, in US, in Africa, in Middle East, in India, in Asia, in Japan, in Canada, Europe, Germany. So everywhere they have got data centers, right? So they have got more than 60 plus data centers and they are providing services across 140 countries. So they are providing services across 140 countries. Some common regions are, some regions, the name of some regions are East US, West US, UK South, UK South, so South India, etc., etc., etc. So there is a very long list. There is a very long list of regions that we have. There is a very long list of regions that we have. So these are the regions. Name of some regions. After regions, we have got something called as availability zones. After this, we have something called as availability zones. Now, what is availability zones? We need to remember 3 points regarding availability zones. 3 points are: point number 1, how many regions we have got? We have got more than 60 plus regions. Out of more than 60 plus regions that we have got, only 16 to 18 regions contains availability zone. Only 16 to 18 regions contains availability zones. So point number one is all the regions do not contain availability zone. Right? All the regions do not contain availability zone. All the regions do not contain availability zone. Now, Noor, before we talk about security of anything, we just need to understand the basic infrastructure, how things are placed. So by the time we do not have an understanding of the basic infra, how things are placed physically, how things are placed logically, we would not be able to secure anything. So what I'm just trying to demonstrate, I'm just trying to demonstrate the basic understanding of things. And you're absolutely correct. Many people go with AZ-900 before they come with AZ-500, but there are many people who do not go with AZ-900 before they come with AZ-500. So completely agree with your point. So I have delivered probably more than 1,000 batches and would have trained more than like 8,000, 9,000 participants. So I am just delivering this from the experience that I carry. What you are saying is absolutely correct. It's a fundamental course. Right? What I'm saying is very fundamental, but sometimes people are missing these fundamentals. And when we start talking about the security, they miss those things. So first, fundamentals has to be very clear. That's a part of any training. So, right. But don't worry, I'll give you time to ask questions from the security part as well. So I'll be giving good amount of time. Now, we were discussing that in availability zones, first of all, out of 60 plus regions, all the regions do not contain availability zones. There are approximately 16 to 18 regions. There will be around 16 to 18 regions that contains availability zone. How can we figure it out? So basically we have got a Microsoft link. We can simply visit the Microsoft link and we can easily figure it out which regions contains availability zone. So what I can do, I can simply share that link with you. If you go through this link in the chat window, you guys can easily figure it out that which region contains availability zone. Prabjot, regarding the course fee, I think Amit is the right guy, so I'll guide you for that as well. Just allow me some time. So these are the Azure services that support availability zones. If you scroll down this link a bit, here it lists down all the regions that contains availability zone. So these are all the regions that contain availability zone, right? So point number one is out of 60 plus regions, 16 to 18 regions contains availability zones. Point number two, let's say out of those 16 to 18 regions, East US is one of the region that contain availability zone. So any region that contain availability zone will have three availability zones. Will have availability zone number one, will have availability zone number two, and will have availability zone number three. So any region that contain availability zone will have three availability zones. Usually one zone is separated to another zone via physical distance of around 10 to 15 miles. So there is a physical distance of around 10 to 15 miles. Point number three, what is the benefit of having an availability zone? Some regions contains availability zone, some regions do not contain availability zone. What is the benefit out of it? So with the help of availability zone, we can achieve better redundancy. We can achieve better redundancy. We can achieve better SLA. We can achieve better high availability with the help of availability zone. How can we achieve that? Probably we'll be discussing during the official training. How can we achieve this? Then after availability zone, we have got something called as data centers. In Azure, as we discussed, in one region, minimum we will have 2 data centers and we can have multiple data centers as well. So minimum 2 or we can have multiple data centers. And in every data center, we will have multiple racks where actually the resources will be hosted. We will have multiple racks where actually the resources will be hosted. So that is how the physical architecture of the Azure will look like. That is how the physical architecture of the Azure will look like. Now let me explain you the logical architecture. Then we have something called as logical architecture. How things are placed logically. Now let's say you want to send an email to your friend, or if I want to send an email to my friend. and I want to use the Gmail services. How can I do it? If I want to send an email to my friend and if I want to use Gmail services, first of all, I need to create a Gmail account. Then only I would be able to send an email to my friend. Similarly, if you want to use Azure, you need to create an Azure account. Now this Azure account, it could be your corporate account. Let's say if my name is Mohit, just an example, and if I'm working for Facebook, then Mohit at facebook.com could be my Azure account. It's my corporate account. Or if I'm using my personal account, maybe Mohit at outlook.com could be my personal account. So it could be your personal account, it could be your corporate account, it could be anything. Right? Now, just because we have got the Azure account does not mean that we would be able to create the resources. Resources means virtual machines, virtual networks, databases, firewall, containers, Kubernetes, service fabric, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, absolutely, you would be able to get the recording link. Will it be shared in the Telegram channel? I am not sure whether it will be shared in the Telegram channel, but I will give you the contact person name and phone number. You can reach out to him, Vivek, and he would be able to share the recording with you, right? So maybe via OneDrive, maybe via Google Drive, or maybe via some other method, we would be able to share that. So I will give you the person's phone number and the contact details. So he would be able to share the recording. You may get the recording. So just because I have got the Azure account doesn't mean that we would be able to create the resources, right? Doesn't mean that we would be able to create the resources. In order to create the resources, we need something called as subscription. There is something called as subscription. If I give you a very, very layman terms example, let's say you have purchased a mobile phone. Now, just because you have purchased a mobile phone, would you be able to make a phone call? No. In order to make a phone call, what do you need? You need a SIM card. And whatever phone call you will make, the billing of all that will be going to your SIM card. Right? Whatever phone call you will make, the billing of all the phone calls, be it SMS, be it international call, be it local call, everything will be going to your SIM card. Similarly here, in order to create the resources, we need something called as subscription. We also consider subscription as a billing boundary. Whatever virtual machine, whatever virtual network, whatever database you are going to create, inside this subscription, the billing will be going to that respective subscription. That is the reason we call that as a billing boundary as well. After subscription, we need something called as resource group. Right? We are going to put a lot of resources. So we need a resource group. Resource group is nothing but a logical container. It's nothing but a logical container which contains the metadata of the resources. If I give you a very, very layman terms example, let's say when we guys were in school, the school administration divide us into multiple sections, class 10th A, 10th B, 10th C, 10th D, right? And so on. So divide us into multiple sections, right? What does those sections represent? Nothing. They are just logically dividing class 10th or class 12th students into multiple sections. So similarly here, it is nothing. Resource group is nothing. It's a logical container with the help of which it's a logical container which contains the metadata of the resources. So if we want to create a resource group, first of all, we need to have a subscription. By the time you do not have a subscription, you cannot create a resource group. Subscription is mandatory. Then if you will be creating a resource group, you have to give it a name. What is the name of the resource group? Maybe you would like to give it a name RG1. Resource group 1. You can give it any name. RG1, RG for the HR team, RG for client number A, RG for client number B, whatever naming convention you want to use. RG for a particular location, RG for US, RG for Canada. So you can give it any logical naming convention. Then you have to define the region. In which region you would like to create this resource group. Few minutes back in the physical architecture, we discussed that we have got more than 60 plus regions. In physical architecture, we discussed that we have got more than 60 plus regions. East US, West US, UK South, South India, etc., etc., etc. So here, now you need to define the region. In which region you want to create this resource group. So let's say physically you want this resource group to be deployed in East US. So physical architecture and logical architecture, they always go hand in hand. They always go hand in hand. After resource group, maybe we would like to create the resources. After resource group, maybe we would like to create the resources. Resources means VMs, VNet, firewall, database, and so on. We would like to create the resources. So how can we do this? First of all, we need to have a subscription. By the time we do not have a subscription, we cannot create a resource. We need to have a resource group, maybe RG1, that's in East US. Then we need to decide the name of a resource. So if I'm trying to create a virtual machine, maybe I can give it a name VM number 1. And then I can define the region. In which region I would like to deploy this VM number 1. So maybe I can say that in East US. That's how finally we would be able to create a resource. Then how can I do it? Then above subscription, we have one more hierarchy. The name of the hierarchy is management group. The name of the hierarchy is management group. So what is management group, or what can we achieve with the help of management group? With the help of management group, we can achieve two things. First, we can apply the policies at scale at a bigger level. Second, we can manage multiple subscription. So sometimes people ask, can we have multiple subscriptions inside one Azure account? Answer is yes. You may have lot of subscriptions inside one Azure account. So how can we manage the subscriptions in an efficient manner? So we can do that with the help of management group. So with the help of management group, we would be able to manage the subscriptions, right? We would be able to manage the subscription here. So that is how the logical architecture of the Azure will. That is how the logical architecture of the Azure will look, right? How can we go to Azure? It's very simple. So how can we create the account? First of all, we need to go to portal.azure.com. How can we go to Gmail? www.gmail.com. Then we log into a Gmail account. Similarly, we need to go to portal.azure.com and we need to log in to our Azure account. If we do not have an Azure account, we can go to portal.azure.com and we can create the Azure account. So we can go to portal.azure.com and that's how we can log into the Azure account. Okay. So just wanted to give you some basic insight at how the actual training is going to be, how actual discussions are going to be. So I have just given you a basic glimpse. What is physical architecture? What is Azure? What is logical architecture? That is something that I try to explain. So now guys, I'll give you some time that you can ask your questions and answers, right? So if you have any questions, any queries, anything, you may go ahead and you would be able to ask your questions and answers, right? In the meantime, I'm also sharing the phone number. This is the phone number of the person. His name is Amit. He is the right person to whom you can contact and to whom you can ask the administrative queries. When the batch is going to start, when are we, how to enroll for this particular course, what will be the fee structure. So all those queries, he is the right person who would be able to help you with that. If you want to get the technical, if you want to get this recording, the recording that we have done for this particular session, if you would like to get the recording for this, then also he's the right person who would be able to help you out for that, right? So I'm sharing, maybe you can take a picture of this particular PowerPoint slide, or maybe you can take a snapshot of it. And I'm sharing his contact details over the chat window as well. So he's available on WhatsApp on this number, or you may reach out to him via phone call as well. So he would be available on this particular. So now guys, request you all, maybe you can unmute yourself one by one and you can feel free to ask your queries as well. Okay. If anyone has any queries, I think a lot of people have a lot of queries earlier. So if anyone has any queries, please go ahead and feel free to ask your queries.
Yeah, hi. It's Akshay here.
Hey Akshay, how are you?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm good, I'm good. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Uh, so whatever we have discussed right now, that's good for me. But I just want to know one thing because I have never been to AZ-900, and we are going to cover AZ-500 right now. Okay. So I don't have any exposure with the AZ-900 and all. So will it be okay? Can I be continue with this? I hope I can understand all the things, all the concepts with it.
Absolutely. See, AZ-900 is always optional. AZ-900
Uh-huh.
is not mandatory for this particular course, it's optional. So usually
Okay.
what I do is I spend first 2 days in order to build a small base, that what is Azure, what is public cloud, what is logical architecture, what is physical architecture, so that if anyone is coming from a background who has not done AZ-900, still he would be able to make it up. Still that person would be able to make it up, right? So not mandatory. AZ-900 is not mandatory.
Okay. Sure. Thanks.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, hi. I just want to know one thing. So far, you have given a brief introduction about only Azure Cloud, right? What is
Mhm.
Azure
Yes.
sources, data sources, and something? Okay.
Right.
So can I get in this class is completed or still it will continue for?
I just wanted to give you a basic glimpse about the Azure and how the training methodology is going to be. If you have any question regarding Azure security, or if you want to discuss some concept on a particular, maybe you want to discuss how can we secure the virtual network, or maybe you want to
Yeah.
discuss how can we secure the identity, or maybe you want to discuss how can we secure the database. So if you have any particular question, feel free to ask.
Yeah. So I don't have any particular question, but I just want to ask security perspective, like what are the contents? I just need a content. It's a context one by one. What are the topics are there only for security, cloud security?
See,
Just give us.
uh-huh.
It might help us, right?
Okay, so let me show you what are we going to cover in this particular course. That is
Yeah.
where precisely I started from. So in this course, we have got 4 modules. So maybe if you want, you can take a screenshot of this, or we can share this over a OneDrive or over a Google Drive as well. So in this particular course, we will be covering manage identity and access. In this, we'll talk about these things: multi-factor authentication, Azure Active Directory groups, Azure AD users, install and configure Azure AD Connect tool, authentication methods, how can we secure things with the help of authentication, conditional access, these are all security related things. Configure Azure identity protection, how can we secure the identities, monitor privilege access, configure access reviews, activate privilege identity management. It's a security feature which only comes with the Azure AD Premium P2 license, right? Then we talk about implementing platform protection. How can we create a virtual network? How can we secure the virtual network? What is NSGs? How can we secure things with the help of NSGs? Azure Firewall, right? Virtual machines, configure VM security, harden VMs, Azure system updates for VMs, configure networks, AKS, authentication, configure container isolation. So these are all the topics that we will be discussing in this particular course. So if you want, maybe you can take a screenshot of it, or if you want, we can share this over a mail to you or over a via link to you, right? Then these things we'll be
Yeah.
covering. How can we secure data and applications? How to enable database authentication? How to enable configure data retention, configure data classification, configure database threat detection, configure access control for storage accounts, configure key managements, create and manage shared access signature, configure security for Azure SG Insight, how to configure security for Cosmos DB. So we'll be covering all these things. So these are the things that we are going to cover in this particular course.
Yeah. Thank you. But can we get any lab for this, or how it is the training?
Absolutely. So what we do, what I normally follow, I will be explaining you things first, right? Just like I was explaining you things right now, right here. Similarly, I'll be explaining you things. After I have explained the things, then I will demonstrate these things to you practically on the Azure portal. Once I have demonstrated them practically, then I will be sharing you lab links so that you can perform those labs in your own Azure accounts as well. So you have got the theoretical knowledge, you have seen the labs, you have seen the practicals, and then you will be performing practicals. So we'll try to cover all the aspects. Right?
Yeah, Jatin, hi. That was good. So, can you spend a couple of 5 minutes, right, about AWS security and what all components? Okay, that slide gives many things, but primarily at a global level, right, and mostly at a resource level, what are the main security services which AWS provides by default?
So let's see. See, there is something called as defense in depth. We need to secure things at multiple layers. We need to secure things at a network layer, at a perimeter layer, identity layer, application layer, right? Etc. 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 So at multiple layers, we need to secure things. So if I talk about network layer security, how can we secure things? We can use Azure Firewall. We can use network security group. We can use DDoS, distributed denial of service. We can use application security groups, right? That's how we can cover the network and perimeter security. We can use WAF, web application firewall. So that's how we would be able to cover the network and perimeter layer security. We can use user defined routes. Then how can we cover the identity? We can use multi-factor authentication. We can use conditional access. We can use PIM, privilege identity management. We can use identity protection. Right? So that's how we would be able to cover the identity protection. We can talk about RBAC. We can talk about zero trust model. We can talk about, we should always follow a principle of least access. So that's how we would be able to cover the identity, right? That's how we would be able to cover the identity.
So, any specific tools here in AWS security, right? Say, at VNet level, we have, okay, this tool we have configured, which actually takes care. Means any specific tools from Azure, or is it something that they're binded to some particular service and we have to, enable those? How does it go over there? Means at a VNet level, right? At networking, these are services.
What tools you have in AWS as a VNet level?
At VNet level, here in AWS, yeah, we have Guard Inspector, right, and we have Security Hub. Next we have, right, AWS Inspector is one tool what we have, right?
See, you are saying
Guard
AWS Inspector. See, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah.
So what do you
Guard
first of
duty,
so
Guard duty is there.
what do you want to secure things? So I think you're talking about the services. Are they third-party tools or are they services?
No, they are services provided. They are the services which are provided from the vendor itself, right? So on a similar basis, at more at what you can say VNet level, or next at the VM level, right? So are there any specific services or something? Okay, you talked about networking. We have a list of services or something by default. Okay, these services must be there. Means by default, okay, these services must be ticked, right? You talked about DDoS and firewall, right? Okay, at this level, these services must be ticked, or these are mandatory. We have something like that. Means which are necessary for any app. There are a lot many services, right?
See, absolutely. Whenever we talk about security, it entirely depends upon the architecture. What are you creating? Are you just creating a virtual machine? Whether you will be running a database on that machine, you'll be running an application server on that machine, you'll be running it as a web server, you'll be running it as an application server, or whether you are creating a web app. So depend upon that, things will be there. These are the services that we can make use of to secure things. These are the list of things that we can make use of to secure things, right? Now, which one you want to use, how much cost you want to bear, because security comes with a cost. Any architecture that is highly redundant and any architecture that is highly secure will always be coming with a cost. Whether you just want to use Azure Firewall, that will be coming with a certain cost, or you want to use firewall with NSG, or you even want to protect your public IPs with DDoS, or you also want to use WAF, right? Or you also want to use identity protection. So all these things will be coming with a certain cost. So depending upon, now there are different types of organization. One is a banking organization for whom security will be a topmost priority. Healthcare, topmost priority. Now there are different types of organization. Depending upon what kind of an architecture you are looking for, you would be able to include these services or you would be able to exclude some services out of this. Right. So these are the list of services I have defined. Now, how to use them optimally, I think that itself needs some good amount of time to discuss all these things first. Does it
If you
answer your
have one
query?
particular slide,
Mhm.
yeah, I got it. You have one particular slide wherein you can have a big glance of these particular services, right? We have some slide which shows, okay, these are these layers. You talked about at networking level. Okay, these are the security services. Okay, the VNet. Okay, next at the some single slide which has this, dashboard.
I do not have a single slide which covers all these things. So first of all, these are some big services which cannot be covered on a single slide. I have slides, but absolutely there will be long slides. So I
Oh,
can, yeah, and so if you go here, if you go to AZ-500, okay, go to AZ-500 here. So here, if you go to AZ-500, so some slides will be there, but not in a single slide we will be able to cover all these services. So these services itself need some time to first understand, and then probably we would be able to talk about it. So if I show you these slides here, so I'll quickly take you this, right? So it says implement platform protection. So we can implement cloud security. So here it says introduction to this shared responsibility model. So at application layer, at operating system layer, at resource layer, subscription layer, tenant layer, multiple layers, we'll be securing things. So it says how can we build a network, subnet, load balancer, traffic manager, network gateways, so IP address, DNS, network interface cards, build a network. Okay. So it says here network security group, user defined routes, force tunneling. So basically there are multiple services. So we would not be able to put that into a single slide. So agenda, NSGs, force tunneling, firewall rules, admin access, DDoS protection. So they will be covering in different slides, right?
So based on each layer, they categorized different services, is it? Based on
Absolutely.
each.
Absolutely. So let's say if you are looking for layer 3 and layer 4 security, then you can achieve that with the help of NSG, ASG. If you are looking for a layer 7 security, you can go with WAF. Right? Layer 3, layer 4 firewall, right? Layer 7 DDoS. So different layers, different layer of security.
Okay, perfect. Got it. Yeah.
Okay. Any other question? Any other query, guys?
Yeah, so here we are also configure Azure Firewall Web Application Gateway, right? We will learn all these things.
Absolutely. So we'll be talking about Azure Application Gateway with WAF. We're talking about how this will work. What are the benefits of using Azure Application Gateway with WAF? How is it different from the load balancer? How is it different from the traffic map? So we'll talk about those things. Absolutely.
We will talk about all these things because actually I am from networking background, so I'm more concentrate on this WAF, Azure Firewall, NSJ. Right? And what is the timing of the batch? Any idea? It is in weekend batch or weekdays?
So we will be starting it on both areas, on weekdays as well as on weekends. We have participants who are only available on weekends. We have participants who are only available on weekdays. So he's the right guy who would be able to help you out with the timings and the exact date when are we going to start this batch. So I think you can get in touch with Amit regarding the administrative questions. So he would be able to help you out with those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Okay, any other question? Any other query, guys?
Yeah, and last thing to wind up, Amit, maybe this is a contest, right? So suppose, right? So generally, security means generally we talk about layers, right? We discuss about SSLs, right? The handshake which occurs between, for security, correct? So here, would you also cover how to renew the certificates, or is it something which Microsoft actually takes care, right? That root certificates and something will be there, right, in security, right? You talked about some certificates in starting, correct?
So
Or
I can show
SSL
you
handshake.
how can you renew the certificates, right? So there are
Please.
services which we can use with the help of which you would be able to renew the certificate.
Okay.
Any other question? Any other query, guys?
Yes, yes. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm calling from Africa. I think it's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was asking, what's the duration per session, first of all, and then secondly, how will we be able to go along the course, like during the process, like let me say the time intervals, how will that be quite possible? And then the duration per session, like since we started, I think 6:30 that time, and our side is always like 600 hours. So how is it going to be able to work out?
So we have two types of batches, one that we do in weekends and one that we do in weekdays. The one that we do during weekdays, we spend 1 hour every day. So we take
Okay.
1 hour session every day. The one that we do
Okay.
in weekends, we do 2 hour sessions, 2 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. And after the session, we also share the recordings with the participants. So that, let's say maybe for some unavoidable circumstances, you were unable to attend the session on a given day. So shortly after the session, or maybe within a couple of hours of the session, you would be able to receive the recording. So that before the next session, you would be able to go through the recording. So that is how the process that we follow.
Okay.
I hope it answers your query.
Yeah, it does.
Wonderful.
Hello.
Yes.
How many days this course will be completed?
See, usually the official duration of this course is 32 hours. But it's 32 hours when we do like 8 hours training every day, 8 hours training for 4 dedicated days. So when we do 8 hours training every day, so we have some break timings. So roughly around 5 to 6 hours we spend every day during the training sessions. So this session will take us approximately around 20 hours to get finished, right? Because during the 1 hour or 2 hour discussion, we will not be having any break. During the 8 hours training every day, we give around 1 hour and 30 minutes break to the participants. We give 1 hour to the participants to do the lab at the end of every day. So approximately around the training goes for 5 hours for 4 days. During 1 hour session, during 2 hour session, we would not be having any breaks, as I mentioned. Plus the labs that you will be doing post training, right? Once we are done with the session, then you will be doing the labs. So approximately like in 18 to 20 hours, we would be able to cover up the training.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. While doing the certification, can we get any labs? I heard about there is no labs in the AZ-500. Only Q&As will come.
Yeah, there are no
Like
labs in AZ-500. Absolutely correct.
Okay. This course will cover Docker and AKS.
Yes, we'll talk about Docker and AKS.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't think we have any further questions. So request you all guys to get.
Hi, this is Avinash here.
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
What is the basic amount of knowledge that we should have on networking, and also actually on Azure actually services to get this course actually fully understood?
So if you have a basic understanding of DNS, DHCP, Active Directory, that would be helpful. Basic understanding of the OSI layer, routers, switches. So if you have what is networks, virtual networks. So if you have the basic understanding, it would be helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Once again, guys, maybe you can take a picture of this screen, or you can get this gentleman's phone number, Amit's phone number. It's +91 9540 662 806. You can reach out to him. He is the right guy who would be able to help you out with the enrollment of the training. We'll be starting this training very soon. Look forward to see you all. Right? As we do not have any further questions, I will call it a training, or I will call it a day. It was really nice interacting with you all. I'm stopping the sharing of my screen. Have a good rest of the day. Keep learning, and we'll look forward to see you during the training session. Okay. Thank you all. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Take care. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.